Moms who know do less so they can focus on what matters most, taking care of themselves, their families, and living their God-given purpose. Moms who know focus on the little things they can do that grow to have a huge impact. You are connecting with your family, your true self, and your God-given purpose. You are a mom who knows. Thank you for joining me today on the Moms Who Know podcast. I am here with Kelsey Murphy today. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Chanel. It is an honor.
I am so looking forward to our call, and I just know you have so much to offer our audience, and I'm really excited for the things that we're going to dive into and to get to know you a little bit better. So let me tell you guys a quick introduction about Kelsey. Kelsey is a business and life coach who has worked with Fortune 500 companies like Facebook, Twitter, lots of big names who you would recognize. And when she's not coaching, she is busy being a mom to her 3.5-year-old daughter, as well as hosting the Whiskey and Work podcast. So Kelsey, I'm excited today to dive in and really talk about this whole concept of planning out your life and life design. And I think that's where I'd love to start, is for you to just tell us kind of what you had pictured before you got into motherhood and kind of what your life looks like now. Let's start with that.
Ooh, I love it. That's a juicy one. That's a good one.
Yes.
Okay, so I grew up with a stay-at-home mom, and I loved her, and I was very close with her. I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and so I think as I was growing up, I always envisioned my life as being a stay-at-home mom. Like I loved that. I loved that my mom was always there for me. She was always the one on field trips. Like I felt very close to her. She's absolutely my best friend now. So that's the life that I envisioned. And then I went to college. And I decided to move up to San Francisco. And I was like, oh, I'll just do the big city thing for a couple years and get a job, until I find, my partner and we settle down. And I went up there and I got a job in advertising. And I realized how much I loved working and contributing, and I loved being able to do something that lit me up. And this was a very creative job. It was a super fun environment. The people around me were just salt of the earth people. I had never lived in the Bay Area. I had kind of been in this my small little hometown in Southern California. So I was exposed to so many different things, and I started to like it. I wouldn't say love it, but I started to like it. And I was like, this is interesting. And as I continued to work, I started to think, you know what, I don't love this job. I didn't love advertising. Not because of the people or the company or the hours necessarily. It wasn't really my calling. Like I didn't feel super passionate about it. I wasn't going to fall on a sword for it. It wasn't something that I was beaming about and wanted to stay up late nights, learning about. So I started to kind of soul search and try to figure out what I would want to do. And I will tell you, all this time, I still thought like, this is just what I'm doing till I find my husband. And once I find my husband, I will probably stop working and have kids and settle down. I probably live on the same street as my mom. I'll be her next door neighbor.
I love it.
Have like 10 dogs and 10 kids. Like that was kind of what I had in my brain. And then as I continued to work, I realized there was a part of me that did want something for myself. Now, it wasn't something I was willing to give up this other kind of stay-at-home mom life for, right? Like that to me always felt like the priority and the most important thing. So I just kept on searching for a job or for people that were showing me an example of how you could possibly do both. Like, is it possible to be that really rooted mom where you're maybe home part-time and you get to show up on every single field trip, and you're always there to drop off and pick up your kids, and you still can iron your husband's clothes and, like do the things that make you happy. Like I'm very weird in that way. Like those kinds of things make me very happy. When I can steam out my husband's shirts, I feel like I'm contributing and I feel really excited about doing that. On the flip side, I had also gotten this taste of really being a leader and contributing on a whole different level financially and also from an impact of helping people. And I always knew that I'm very emotional. Like I'm highly sensitive. I'm highly emotional. I like to be kind of a nurturer. And so I knew that I would want to be some sort of a helper if I went into a profession. And so I looked into being a marriage and family therapist. I looked into being a high school counselor. I dabbled in being a massage therapist. I like explored all of these different routes. And when I stumbled upon life coaching, something about this idea of understanding what your values are and what your belief system is and how that shows up for you in your relationships and how that shows up for you in the work you do and how that shows up for you with your kids. Like that was so fascinating to me. And so I really dove deep into that and started to learn a little bit more about life coaching and recognized that if I wanted to, I could create this life where I didn't have to give up being this really rooted mom where I was there and available all the time, or give up this idea of having a successful kind of career where I could pop out for a day and take a flight up to San Francisco and talk at the Facebook offices and still be home for dinner and like to pick up my kid. And I could, go away for a day and have like a girls' little retreat out in Palm Springs and sip on champagne and goal set, and do these things that would really drive me as an individual, but also still not give up this dream of being there for my family. And so that was really when I figured out that, wow, like my goal actually isn't one or the other. It's actually to do both. When I defined that and I really understood what that was, that's when I could really start like doubling down and going after building that life. And I will say building that life isn't easy. There's a lot of balls in the air when you're trying to do both things. But I will tell you now, fast forward to where I am now. I work with some beautiful and wonderful humans and souls like Marie Forleo and Kelly LeVeque. And I do get to pop up to Twitter and to Facebook for the day and go speak at their offices. And all while still only working 3 days a week. And I keep my Mondays free to just run errands and be really present with my kiddo. Like one of our favorite things is to go to the grocery store. And I will tell you, it's not a quick trip to the grocery store. It's not an in and out, but
No.
it is
with a 3-year-old, right?
Yes,
it's never, yeah.
But for whatever reason, we've created like this experience of going to the grocery store together where she's so excited about it. And we're talking about the zucchinis that are on sale. And we take our time going through and we talk about things, and it's so special. And I love my Mondays because then we'll go do laundry together and we'll go pick up my husband's dry cleaning, and we get to do those normal types of things. And then Fridays I always save for like super fun days. Like we'll go to the zoo or we'll go visit my sister and her kiddos, and we'll do something really usually adventurous and spontaneous on Fridays. And then I just work on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. And I work with clients that I love now. And I do life and business coaching, and I help women to create a similar lifestyle where they don't feel boxed in, right? They don't feel like they can only do one or the other. They can create and redefine what an epic ideal life looks like for them. Everything from like, hey, like I only want to work part-time hours, but I still want to make 6 figures. Like I came from a corporate background. How can I do that? How can I still be with my kids, but still make, a significant amount of money in these short amount of hours? And I'm like, there's a lot of business models for that. There's a lot of ways that we can create that. Let's talk about what lights you up, and let's talk about what that would look like. And we start to really redefine it and put it on paper. And I think that there's not a ton of people out there talking about that and talking about how, you can do both and you can define that life that really makes you happy. And you could admit the fact that you want to iron your husband's clothes. Like I can't tell you how many people I've said that to, and they're like, really? Like you like to go to the grocery store with your 3-year-old and iron your husband's clothes? I'm like, listen, it's not always perfect. I won't say that it's always awesome, but yeah, those things actually make me feel really fulfilled as a wife and a mom. And Also, I like to then on Tuesdays go sit and have coffee completely by myself and plan out my business and goal set and then talk to people about like the human psychology and the motivation that's going on like in their brains and how that's helping them be more productive or less productive. Like I like to have my own thing too, but I can't ignore that other side of me that like is always going to be there and always like wants to shine through, you know?
Yeah. Oh, this is such a powerful conversation. And I love where you're taking us because I feel like, I grew up the same as you with a stay at home mom. And I always thought I will be a stay at home mom. And then when I became a stay at home mom, when my kids were little, that's all I had the capacity for because we had, a lot of little kids at the same time. I had four all close together. But as they got a little older, I knew I wanted something else. And then it was almost this battle of like, but wait, can a good mom do that too?
Mm-hmm.
And this model that you are showing, it makes it seem absolutely possible. And I think that we are so fortunate to live when we do. There are so many things that you can do that maybe, back in the 80s, it did have to be you are either a stay-at-home mom full-time or you're a full-time 9 to 5, gone all day, have to miss all the stuff kind of mom. And yet we have so many options.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like it's a blessing and a curse, like depending on really depending on your age, like usually I feel like kids that are just coming out of college right now, like they have this idea and understanding that you can do anything, like you can do anything. And it's almost too many options for them, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
like I don't know what my quote unquote passion is. Like I don't know what I love because there's so many things to do. But I feel like when you get into at least mom zone, like when you're a mom, you really recognize that there actually isn't that many options of things that I could do while also doing what I want to do as a mom. Like there's only a few things that I can do, but with with the internet now and with all of the options out there, I mean, like you're saying, like in the 80s, there weren't podcasts like this, like as like blowing up in the ways that they are now and being so accessible and creating a business opportunity right there with podcasts that you could do during nap time. Like there's all these, I think, things that are starting to pop up as available for moms, and the rate at which women, especially like right around their 30s, are leaving their jobs or quitting the corporate world, like those numbers are staggering and they're just climbing and climbing and climbing. And I don't think it's because women just don't want to work. I think it's because women are seeing opportunities to work in a way that creates a lifestyle that they actually want with their family.
Yeah, because if you know as a woman what really matters to you and you say, you know what, this is what I want. I only have these few years with my kids when they're little and I want to go to the grocery store. I don't think I've ever said I want to iron my husband's shirts, just for the record, but I want to go to the grocery store. I do like to cook. So we'll say that. I like to cook for my family. I like to do some of those things. Ironing is not one. My husband irons his shirts himself and my boys' shirts if they're wrinkly. I'm like, go see dad.
I love it.
That's not a mom job in our house. But anyway, yeah, to recognize what we want. And that is so powerful in this conversation too, to really take a step back and say, what do I want? Is it to be full-time working or full-time home, or is it some hybrid? And it's okay, whatever that answer is, as long as it lines up with what you actually want.
So most women that I know, that at least that I work with or I talk with, or even friends that are moms, usually want some sort of a hybrid when it comes to working and independence and being home with their kids. It's usually never, oh, I just want to work. Like if I have a choice, I just want to work and I want to work like 80 hours and just like hustle through the day. Or I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want anything for myself. I don't want any independence. Like usually it's a really good hybrid that people would want and would dream about, right? Like, but there's not a ton of examples out there and not a ton of, I feel like a ton of role models showing how you can do both and do both really, really well. And I think that's the key, is that doing both really well does not necessarily mean having to work 80 hours and making, seven figures and multi-million dollars. And it also doesn't mean you have to be home 24/7. I think that when we really, really dig deep and we ask ourselves, what is it that would make me happy? Often it is less hours. It is like part-time hours and like maybe a high six-figure, job, or it's staying home and it's being available like without even thinking about it for every single field trip if you want to, like taking them and being part of the drop off and the pickup 110%, like not having to struggle to decide between those, knowing that you own your schedule, knowing that that is your number one priority. You always get to do it because you want to do it. So I think that everybody usually that is a mom that I've talked to would like some sort of a hybrid. Now, the hybrid I think that we want fluctuates during seasons. Like when you have a newborn, you may want to work less hours. Like I'm about to have have another kiddo, and while I have this really wonderful schedule and system right now, I don't know what it's going to be like to have my second kiddo. I'm in a really great season with my husband. I'm in a really great season with my business right now, but I do believe everything happens in seasons. And so when we enter this next season, I believe it's going to be so important for me to take a step back and redefine, after learning what this new season is like, redefine what that new level of success looks like for me as being a successful mom, a successful wife, a successful friend, and a successful business owner. Like what really redefining that, because I have a feeling it will shift. Like I already know that I'll probably want to stay home a little bit more and be more available to my little babes. And I really like the newborn phase. Like not everyone likes that. Like I have tons of friends that are like, yeah, I liked being home with my kid for 6 weeks and then I needed a nanny to come in, or I needed more of a break. And a lot of people feel that way. And I think that that's amazing because you know yourself well enough to know what you want. But for me, I actually really love the newborn phase. So if I have the choice, I would like my business to still be running and doing well, while also being able to take a little bit more hours to just relax and have nothing on the schedule and just to snuggle and to sleep with her. And that for me, I can imagine is going to be part of what my ideal life looks like. And so I think it's important to have a system and a method and a way that you redefine yourself and you redefine your life. And so for me, I have a 3-year manifesto, and I always redo my 3-year manifesto when I can tell I'm stepping into a new season. And honestly, that can be within a couple months. It can be I do it every quarter. It could be I do it every 6 months. I definitely do it every 6 months to a year. But I tend to, in this season of my life, because I'm going from like newborn to toddler to kid in school, like those seasons, I think you change very significantly. And the things that you want out of life change significantly. Just like, when you're single and you go to being married, like the things that you want change, So for me, I usually redo my 3-year manifesto every quarter, and I sit there and I just visualize. I do a guided visualization and I envision what I want my life to look like in 3 years. And I start at a very, very basic place, like in my bed. Like, where do you want to be waking up? Like, what do you want? What kind of coffee do you want to be drinking? Like, what do you want your comforter to feel like? Like, what does your room look like? Like, I start envisioning this ideal life. Like, what do you want to be saying to your husband first thing in the morning when you wake up? Like, what do you want mornings to be like with your kiddo? Like, do you want to be rushing out the door, or do you want to, ask Alexa to play a Disney song so you can laugh with them, and have these moments. And so I do everything from like my personal life with my husband and my kids and myself to what I want my business to look like. Like, what kind of clients do I want to be working with? Like, what kind of conversations do I want to be having? Like, what amount of money is going to make me feel really proud and excited coming in at the end of the month? And I write all of these things down, and then I have this vision for myself of what I'm I'm going and how I'm going to build this really beautiful hybrid of a life that I want. And I give myself about 3 years. I call it a 3-year manifesto because I feel like 5 years for me feels a little bit too far. It's like 5 years kind of feels like anything could happen in 5 years. 1 year, I'm like, I don't know what I could build in 1 year. Like this may take some effort, but 3 years to me feels like a really comfortable place. And then I have this idea, this goal, this beautiful designed life that I'm working towards, and I can reorganize my weekly schedule and my daily schedule around prioritizing those things, because otherwise I just skipped through the day, and I'm not laughing with my husband at all, and I wonder why I wake up, a year later and I don't have that really giggly, connective, fun loving relationship with my husband. And it's like, well, what did you put on your schedule this week to make that happen? Like even if it's like after the kids go to bed and you put 20 minutes on your calendar to just laugh and watch a comedy together and pour a little glass of wine, like that is going to make all the difference in 6 months if you're doing that once a week. Like you're going to rebuild that kind of a life and a relationship that you want, that's kind of in your 3-year manifesto. So for me, I feel like it's so important to have a system or a method that allows you to redefine and dream up what that hybrid life looks like, and not just think about it, but actually put it on paper,
Yeah, I love that method. I use something similar, but I don't go into quite as much detail. And I love that idea of really going through your day of what do you want with your kids? Because I call mine a life vision. And when I created it, it was easy to think of kind of the big picture things, but I found it harder to think of the small things. And I think that's a really good way. Well, where do you want to wake up? What do you want to drink? How do you want to talk? All those little things I think are so important. Now, I recently did an episode about that life vision. And in that, I shared how I use mine, which is I actually listen to it as a meditation in the morning. And then often when I'm transitioning from work time to kids coming home from school, which helps me to just refocus. And I'd love to learn from you how you use yours. Is it something you read regularly? Do you write it and then put it in a drawer? What do you do?
So that is such a good question. I do my 3-year manifestos like every I write them out and I do a guided kind of meditation visualization, usually about every quarter, maybe every 6 months, and I rewrite the whole thing and I envision what I want that to look like. But then every Sunday night when I'm planning my week, I go and I reread it, and I usually have it. I write it digitally, so it's like an Evernote or it's in a Google Doc. And when I reread it on Sunday, I just kind of check in with myself. I literally have like an iCal that's like, hey, do a check in, like do a reset. And I reread it and I make sure everything still feels really good to me. And often the things that will tweak and that will feel a little bit different at this season of my life are work things. Where I want to be with my husband and where I want to be with my kids are usually pretty clear. I feel like pretty rooted in that. Where earlier in my life, I probably wouldn't have felt as rooted in that. Those things might have like tweaked every Sunday. But with my business, I'm constantly learning new things. My business is growing really quickly right now. So I am recognizing what I do and what I don't want. And so it's really important to me to tweak those kind of sentences, whether that is how many team members I want, or do I want to be taking them to a retreat once a year, twice a year? And what do I want to be doing on that retreat? And I tweak things as I learn things and as I understand more about myself and what I want out of business. So I'll do that for maybe like 10 minutes on a Sunday night, and then I'll plan out my week around that. And it's really important for me to read it and then plan my week around that, because otherwise I'll plan my week around all the things that I feel like I have to do, like laundry or errands or just checking things off. And I'm not planning my life or my week around that that 3-year manifesto, that ideal life that I want to create. And so I will be skipping over, like setting up the in-home date night with my husband and putting that on the calendar. Or I will be skipping over, like there's literally an iCal right now on my on my calendar that's for Monday mornings with McKenna, and it's a little hour blocked off to wake up, to watch the trash trucks, to laugh and have breakfast, and to turn on a fun song. And those things have become a little bit more normal, natural to me. But I've had that iCal on my calendar probably for the last year and a half, and it's something that I recognized. I loved that moment. We had this moment one morning where we just had a really slow Monday morning. She was looking at the trash trucks and asking all these inquisitive questions and so excited about them. And we put on a song and she danced, and we had a healthy breakfast together. And I felt like, yes, I feel like I'm killing it as a mom.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what not only makes me happy, but like this is a memory I'm creating. And so I recognize that that is the life that I want. I want that to become my normal Monday morning. So I started to put that on my calendar every morning. And now it has become normal. But there was a time there where that I just wouldn't have always done that. Like I would have probably just gotten through my Monday morning. And so when I plan out my week now, I read that 3-year manifesto. I just love it. I live it and breathe it in. I do any tweaks that I need to like update anything I've learned in the last week or so. And then I plan my week and my to-dos around that ideal thing, that ideal life. And then I plug in the have-tos, but first I put on my calendar things that are directly related to this 3-year manifesto so that they don't get lost in the shuffle. And then I fill in my calendar after that with the things that I know I need to do, like the laundry and the dishes and other things like that.
Oh, this is so good because I think it's so easy to do it backwards. So many of us are where, there's just things that are pressing or, urgent, like the Stephen Covey little matrix I'm thinking of right now. It's urgent, but it's not that important. And where you want to be is in the important things. And this is such a good way to make sure that that happens. And I really love, and I hope you guys heard that example specifically. First of all, aren't garbage trucks the best for toddlers? When my son was 2, he's a little less excited about it now. He still loves it if he happens to see it. But when he was 2, he could hear the garbage truck literally from anywhere in our house. I couldn't even hear it, and he would hear it. And Mom, it's the garbage truck. And we would run outside, follow the garbage truck all through the neighbors. I mean, in my bare feet and whatever I happened to have on, just run after the garbage truck. And such a good memory. But I love that you are recognizing the importance of that, because so often when we think of, well, what's really important? We want to do these big things, live our purpose and our mission, and maybe that's business related or all these things. But what it really is those connections. And when we take the time to say, this is the life I want, and then it translates to what you do on a daily basis, then you're living it. Then you have that. You're doing exactly what you want to do, and you're living with purpose, with intentionality. That's so powerful.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I have probably had about a million mornings with you out in bare feet, chasing down a garbage truck. Yes. Are you in your robe again? I'm like, I am. But you're so right in the fact that we put so much pressure on ourselves to, know what our passion is and live these purposeful lives. And I feel like the passion and the purpose and the courage and the connection, it comes in moments. It doesn't come in these big giant packages. Like, it comes in those moments that you connect with your toddler, when they're in their 3s, and they're usually, just exploring the entire world and yelling and screaming and understanding who they are, and developing emotionally and psychologically. And then you have that moment, that that like 10-minute moment where you just connect with them. And that, I think, is what makes us feel so happy and proud and like this is it. Like this is what I want out of my life. Like if nothing else, it's these moments. And it's a moment with your toddler, and it's a 10-minute moment with your husband, and it's a 10-minute moment at work where you feel like, wow, I just did something that's actually meaningful, that's going to help someone's life. It's these moments. And I feel like what happens is, one, we don't recognize those moments, so it's so important to get to the end of the day or the end of the week and usually take a step back and look at your week in moments, look at your week and say, what did I do that I'm really proud of? Like, what moments did I have that I loved so much? What am I so grateful for? Like, just doing kind of a recap helps you to recognize, like, you probably had a lot of those moments this week. But also, when you're trying to plan or grow or step into a new season or build a business or find out what your passion is or find a little something for yourself, or you're trying to grow in some sort of way. For me, it's so important to put those moments on the calendar and to plan for them and to say, I want another moment like that, because when I laughed with my husband, that was the best part of our week. And I need to put that on the calendar if I want that to happen again. Or I know that when I did those trash trucks, like that was something I will never forget, those moments with, when McKenna was 2, the same sort of thing. Like the excitement of a 2-year-old in trash trucks cannot be underestimated. And I never want to forget those moments, So I always wanted to have space in my calendar to do nothing but be there for that moment, and I think if we can create those moments intentionally and consciously and kind of put them on our calendar for the week, and know that if we do nothing else but we have a handful of moments like this, like we will be nailing it by the end of the week.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I love that so much. There has just been so many wonderful things today, not least of which garbage men are rock stars. I mean, in toddler life, they totally are. So props to all the garbage men out there, and to you, Kelsey, for living is so intentionally and for teaching other people how to do the same. I love it. Where can people find you and get more from you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on and for facilitating this conversation. I feel like what you're doing is so important, and I love that there's a space to have this conversation. It makes it really special and I think more meaningful. So thank you for doing that.
Hey.
And yeah, if people want to connect with me, I would say you can come to my website at kelseymurphy.com. You can find out all sorts of things about me on there. But if you want to get personal with me, I'd probably say to come find me on Instagram, because that's really where you'll see McKenna. You'll see a ton of like raw footage of life, where there is a lot of garbage trucks that are shown on there as well. And come say hi and slide into my DMs and let me know that you heard me on this podcast, and let's connect deeper, because I am a emotional, sensitive introvert by nature, and so my happy place is connecting with people kind of intimately. And so, yeah, if you want, come say hi to me on Instagram at Kelsey Murphy.
Perfect. I love that. Now, I always ask my guests this final question, because what the hope is that people don't just walk away going, oh, that was really great, right? We progress in life when we take action. So my question for you is, after having this conversation today, what one little thing do you hope people do differently or think differently because of what they've heard?
Such a good question. I hope that people recognize that that they can build a life that isn't just part of them, that they don't have to build something that excludes part of their dream or part of their personality. For so long, I feel like I hated the fact that I was so emotional and sensitive, and I wanted to build an entire life around ignoring that. And it was like, Kelsey, that's such a big part of you. Like, why don't we find a way to incorporate that and love up on that piece and not let it be a detriment? And so whether it's recognizing that you can have this life and you can have this hybrid life that incorporates all the different sides of you, or all the different dreams that you have of being a stay-at-home mom and having a business, or whatever that looks like for you. I just hope people walk away recognizing that they can have that. And that it's people are doing it. People are doing it out there and they're building it, you know?
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being with us and for all that you've taught us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you everyone for listening to Moms Who Know. I had so many ahas and takeaways and just so much good stuff in this episode with Kelsey. I hope you had that too, and I would love to know about it. So come over on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, what one little thing are you going to do because of what you've heard today? If you like this episode, share it with a friend. Let them know, because everyone deserves to know good stuff like this and to be able to simplify her motherhood and to know that she's not in it alone. I hope you guys know that. I hope you feel that. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week on Moms Who Know.